The number one job an agent should do when they do call their leads is solve a problem for them, right? Understand where they're at in the buying journey. If you call those leads and expect them to start scheduling showings and show up at the closing table that month, that's the wrong approach, and you will set the wrong expectation for yourself, and you probably won't like what you're seeing and getting.
Hello and welcome to Forward Slash Real Estate, the podcast for the technology enabled agent. I am Chris with Real Geeks, and I got a guest with me here that if you're on our email list, you've probably heard from before. So, Chris from Real Geeks, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm also Chris from Real Geeks in the leather jacket as well. And Yeah, I'm the VP of sales here at Real Geeks. I've been in real estate technology for close to 2 decades now. So can't wait to start this conversation. We have a fun one today.
We want to jump right into a topic that is, I don't know, we get a lot, which is, well, why don't I just put a lot of my budget towards pay at close leads?
We do, and it's been growing, I think, for a little while now, especially as these turbulent kind of markets we've been dealing with for the last few years. Agents kind of view, team leaders view it as well. I would say maybe some emerging brokerages as well kind of view these as low risk kind of offerings. Maybe as an agent who's new, doesn't have the budget up front to spend on marketing. Maybe it's a team leader who wants to, you know, go into growth mode, and they think pay it close is the answer. And I got to tell you, it's not true, Chris.
Well, let's start with what it says on the box, right? So, why pay it close seems like a good idea because it seems like a low risk, no risk way of feeding your organization, right?
On the surface, sure, right? It's like short term, feel good transactions. But when you go to your weekly meeting with your team leader or broker, and they're throwing up the leaderboard for commissions, and you might have a lot of transactions that you drove all over town for, but then you look at your commissions, and the pay at close provider took 42% of your pay. So that doesn't feel so good. Um, on top of that, the team leader is thinking, how do I grow this team at a lower cost? So they got to keep adding and adding and adding more agents because they're chasing their tail as well, because they have to pay that amount at close. So it's the transactions definitely feel good, Chris, but long term, it's not a growth strategy.
Right. And it basically boils down to you're just not keeping as much of your revenue as you could be if you owned more of your marketing funnel.
Yeah, you're renting it, right? And not only that is, why do agents get into real estate in the first place? They get in for freedom, be their own boss. So then when you sign up for one of these pay at close models, and you're having weekly sales meetings essentially with their sales manager, and they're telling you, call these leads, follow up on this lead, or you don't get leads, right? Now you're basically just have a new boss telling you what to do. And that's not why agents got into this business, right? They got in for the freedom, for the autonomy, to scale their business the way they see it. And that's kind of like the mental mind trick that they have to play. It's often that they compare these pay at close models to, a traditional lead gen platform, such as Real Geeks. So it's like, do you want to have that steady monthly leads, online lead generation through your brand and kind of that traditional model, as you pay as you go, or do you want to take the no risk and then pay half your commission, close to? You got to think about there's splits on and they're involved too, Chris. So you're paying your team leader, you're paying your broker, you're paying, everyone wants a slice of that pie. So you get very little commission at the end of the day at pay at close, but the transaction is what makes you feel good. In comparison to online lead gen model, you might get 25 leads a month, right? On a traditional kind of, let's say, lead package that costs you 12 grand a year. So you might 300 leads a year. You get 1% conversion. That might sound low to a lot of agents, but that's incredible. That could be three transactions, right? So if you go out to any other business out there and you walk in and say, hey, I'll give you 12 grand. And let's say, in this scenario, let's say the house costs 500K. So it's 15K, in commission. So 45,000. So give me 12 grand. I'll give you 45 back. That's an incredible business model. right? It's a long term play though. It's building momentum, and it only gets better year after year. It compounds.
I'm trying to think about the, like, what people are gonna say, "Yeah, but our pay at close just, like,
Listen,
ready to go sooner."
yeah, I mean, I get it, right? And
Yeah.
taking a step back, being a real estate agent is difficult, right? It's hard. It's hard to get business. You're a solo entrepreneur. I get it. I get why it would be appealing. And online lead generation doesn't have to be your only avenue as well. If you're a newer agent or looking to get into some lead gen, right? You could do online lead gen, but then sit open houses every weekend as well. Like there's other avenues. Are you uploading your database, in your CRM and sending out market reports, home value reports, CMAs? Are you doing all the different things? Or are you putting all these eggs in this one basket, right? That's not a great growth strategy either. So you got to look at it differently.
So what about for the brokerage that is thinking, "Okay, yeah, I have a diverse portfolio of demand generation tactics, and, the pay at close guys are just one of them," right? So, like, how would you advise someone that's thinking about keeping the pay at close as part of their portfolio?
Why? Why keep it at all, right? Is it because you're bringing on a lot of new agents and you want to make them get off, to a quote unquote fast start, make them feel good with transactions? That could be a reason, right? We talk about this all the time internally at Real Geeks. Like, I'm a sales leader. I got to keep my sales team mentally prepared every day, mentally focused. And wins create more wins. So I could see that kind of thing. Like, let's give them some win velocity under their wings and then send them out to other avenues.
You talked about the freedom element, but it definitely seems like, in most pay at close models, there's some downside. And we're also seeing, the vendors becoming, maybe increasingly micromanagey. So I mean, talk through a little bit about like kind of the overhead that comes with this free lead.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. Like you're driving, like you don't have a choice. If they give you a lead that's, if let's say you are, you want to work a certain demographic, or I should say a certain area, a certain city, a certain farm area that I want to farm this city. This is kind of where I live. This is the price point I want to be at. Like that's why you got a real estate license. Maybe like a bunch of your, people on your PTA are like, hey, I wish you know, I would do business with you. You should be a realtor, right? That sort of thing. So they pick their farm area, they pick their price point they want to be out, then they sign up for a pay at close model, hop on a sales meeting with them, and they send a lead that's 30 miles in the opposite direction for a price point that is well below where they want to be. They don't have a choice. They gotta follow up on that lead, right? They got to spend time driving out there, doing the report, CMA report, the market research, the research on the neighborhood, the schools. They got to do all this work, right, for this lead that they really don't doesn't really fit what they wanted to do originally.
Yeah, but I own this lead, right?
Is it really your lead or is it their lead? And they can pull leads at any time. They auction off, home buyers and sellers to the highest bidder essentially, and they have a very strict follow-up policy on these leads. So again, you have a second brokerage almost, right? That you're now working for and having to show up for and work the leads the way they tell you to work them.
Right. So let's start migrating into like the mental mindset that is going to get you to kind of think like, okay, hang on, these things are not that great of an idea. And maybe you can walk through some of the calculations that get you there. And from my perspective, it seems like since you're talking about a much lower profit margin, you are thinking that you're going to scale your way out of this, but scaling your way out of no profit still is
No
no
profit.
profit.
Yeah, exactly, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. You're chasing something that doesn't exist, right? It's the transactions again. I say it 100 times on this thing. Like they feel good. Transactions feel good for any agent, for any salesperson in general. So that check that box. Great. But then ultimately, everyone has bills to pay, right? They need income. They need commission. And when you have someone taking 42% of your commission on these leads on top of your other splits, like you got to do 10 times more transactions than the person who decides, you know what, I'm going to own my pipeline. I'm going to own my contacts. I'm going to do my own lead generation and I'm going to scale for the long term. Because like I said, if you have one of these lead gen platforms, right, they compound year over year. I think the trouble that agents face when they look at like a 1% conversion over, a year, um, is the fact that it just takes time, right? And they want that instant gratification.
Let's drill into that, maybe a little bit slower because I think first we need to talk a little bit about the like the acquisition models that a lot of agents understand because I feel like there's really two that they think of. One is, you know, kind of working your sphere, building referral base, that kind of thing, which is like the traditional real estate agent growth model. And then the other one that they're pushed heavily is pay at close leads. But really there's a third, which is owning your own demand gen funnel. And so can you walk me through like what that looks like and then how the characteristics of that are different when you're looking at your own like, let's say P&L, and ROI numbers?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're generating your own contacts, like if you're sitting in open houses, for instance, which is, I would recommend to any agent out there, um, that needs middle funnel contacts that turn into leads, that turn into deals that they own through their entire pipeline, to go sit open houses, right? Go volunteer for every, find your farm area, and any agent in your office that has listings, raise your hand every single time, right? So that's a source that you can put into your CRM that you completely own. No one's gonna go in there, take it from you. No one's gonna take a cut of your commission, right? That shouldn't. Um, and and really that's what it's about. So in many cases, they're not understanding the difference in the calculations of like what short term I think works versus this long term, growth that they want to be at. So if you just look at basic, I mean basic, like, $500,000 house, like I said, if you get three transactions that's pretty conservative price point, right? That's 15,000 on 3% commission. So you're at $45,000 on three transactions. And I'm sure most agents have other channels that they're getting. Like you mentioned Sphere, right? Sphere is
Yep.
people like just in your phone book, right? It's your cousin's friend, it's your, you know, aunt's coworker, that sort of thing, right? Just your sphere of influence that you post on Facebook. And it's like, hey, I'm a real estate agent. If you have any questions, contact me, right? So the math is so much better on those type of contacts that you own versus these ones that you rent from a portal that takes a huge cut. So it's a long-term game, but that long-term game is worth playing.
So talk to me about what does long term mean? We're talking about like, building a business that you actually own. So how long does it take from the time that I start, doing something like generating Google leads to the point where, I have a self-sustaining, thing that's chunking out transactions?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. You got to be multi-channel on this. You can't put all your eggs in the online lead gen basket. Online lead gen is fantastic, and you should have some money there. Whether you do it yourself through like Facebook ads, which is really easy to do, and the leads are really affordable. To Google spend, which is more aggressive and can cost a little more, but you get higher intent leads there. But you should be working your sphere. You should be posting to Facebook. You should be sitting open houses. You should be joining different networking groups or joining your PTA or doing events at your kids' schools. All the things you got to get in front of people, and then you got to call your leads too. Like, if you're doing all these things, you got to call the leads. Especially with online lead generation. So, and just to get 1%, like I said, I mean that's not too much to ask. You just got to call your leads.
All right. So, Chris, you talked about you got to call your leads, right? I think one of the things that we consistently hear is, well, but I have this feeling that a pay it close lead is good to go versus a online lead is going to require, some level of like, care and feeding over a period of time. Can you address those? Like, how do you advise agents when
Yeah.
they're saying
Uh,
like, what almost sounds to me like, yeah, are you sure? Sure, I have to call them. Uh,
Yeah, I'm gonna say something no other vendor is gonna tell them is, yeah, they're not ready to go leads, right? These When you generate a lead through your website platform, they're explorers, they're curious, they're searching, right? They're not hopping on. a portal and know exactly what they're looking for. No, they're actually going to Google and searching, show me homes in this area with a pool with a big backyard because they don't know what they want yet. So yeah, they are still exploring. The number one job an agent should do when they do call their leads is solve a problem for them, right? Understand where they're at in the buying journey. If you call those lead and expect them to start scheduling showings and show up at the closing table that month, that's the wrong approach, and you will set the wrong expectation for yourself, and you probably won't like what you're seeing and getting. But if you approach it the correct way and ask the right questions on those leads, and really your only job is to solve a challenge for them, right? That can be anything. You can leave it open ended, like, "Hey, this is Chris. See you on my website. What's the most important thing to you in your home search, or what's the biggest challenge right now that you're facing in your home search?" What would make or a great question would be, "Hey, this is Chris. I know searching for a home can be difficult. What would make the process easier for you?" And they might say, "Oh, I need to find a lender," and you can help with that. And guess what? You solve that problem, and then you turn them into your client. So with online lead generation, solve a problem. Number one, connect. Well, Chris, answer your first question. Yes, call your leads. Of course, call your leads, then try to solve a problem for them, and you will turn more of those leads into contacts, into connections, into clients, into closings.
Do you think it's really true? So I guess one of the things that as I think through this, a contact that's browsing, one of the big portals and is clicking on random things and, then says, yeah, I might, be interested in going and seeing this house versus someone that has gone to Google, typed in a specific search, ended up on your website. Like, so now they're on a like more niche specific website and then giving you their name and phone number, with the full knowledge that you're going to call them. It does strike me as weird that people consider or the agents considered that the Google leads are lower intent when it does seem like there's almost more effort on the part of the end user.
100% true. That's a great point. And really, what the portals have on their side is just volume. That's it. It's just
Right.
they have so much volume that they can filter through and have a large call center calling and finding you know, those diamonds in the rough versus, yeah, you're right. If you're Googling and you land on a Real Geeks agent website and you fill out a form to see that listing and get more information, that's pretty good intent.
Right. And so now what you're saying is you've got to help that person with their process, like become the problem solver for them so they keep coming back to you.
100%, because let's be real, like, we know the averages. All our any lead gen company out there knows that these leads don't convert for 8 to 12 months on average. Sure, there's going to be some that convert sooner, which is great, but let's be realistic. 8 to 12 months, you'll get, start hitting your conversion rates. But between then and now, you got to build your pipeline. In order to do that, you got to make connections, which means you got to solve problems for them, right? You got to be their advisor, their real estate advisor. So ask them, right? Don't ask them, if you want to go see this house this weekend. Don't ask them a bunch of buying questions. That's gonna basically scare them off, right? And then they'll never call you back. No, ask them how you can serve them, what problem can you help them with that they're facing.
All right. All right, Chris. So, one of the things that we've been getting a lot of customers asking
Oh
us
boy,
about
here we go.
is basically terms and conditions questions related to pay it closed
Yeah.
leads. And yeah, not to foreshadow any content that we might have coming out, but it does seem that the question, and we've already kind of asked this question, like, do you own that lead? Or is the technology that you're using, actually on your side on this thing? So do you think that a lot of agents are thinking about that? Like, is their CRM actually building a business for them that is theirs?
I think they are. And I mean, I know they are because we've been in those calls this week since, the other platform changed their terms and conditions recently. So it's super important. I mean, their contacts, when you go, if you're a successful real estate agent or team or brokerage, like when you sell your business, what are you buying, Chris?
The database.
The database, right? And so your database is everything to a real estate agent. And so if you sign up for a provider that changes their terms and conditions and saying, well, now we have mutual customers or shared databases, for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter, right? That would be concerning as a real estate agent. So I totally get the frustration that's happening right now. You know, I also understand why that company did it. It makes total sense to me. Like I think it was, you know, just bound to happen after that acquisition. So yeah, I think it's super important, and you have to really trust where you put your contacts.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there was a trade show that we came back to where we talked to a lot of that platform's product people, and yeah, after the announcement, everything seemed
Yeah.
to click. Uh, and so the play seemed obvious, and we were even hearing that from our customers. So, I'll just maybe repeat the thing that, Kevin said, and we hear from a lot of our customers, which is, I want to own my business, which is the same reason that have people maintaining databases that are not, tied to their broker tools.
100%. And that's why pay it close doesn't make sense either, because you really don't own your business, right? So if you're an agent out there that's that wants to keep their autonomy, your freedom, wants to have your growth strategy that is yours and yours alone, where you decide, you know, where your contacts go, who has access to them, et cetera. Like, get a lead gen or a CRM platform that honors that. And, pay it close may seem like a great idea, like a no risk, and it's quite the opposite. There's a lot of risk to pay it close.
Chris, if people want more information about Real Geeks, where do they find it?
You go to realgeeks.com. You can give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. You can book a demo with us. We'd love to show you around, show you all these things that Real Geeks can do for you and your business and your long-term growth strategy, because ultimately we love serving real estate agents. We love this industry. We've been doing this for 17 plus years. And we want to see this industry move forward in a positive way. And supporting agents is how we do that. And investing in agents and agent technology is number one importance to us.
Maybe just to leave the audience with a little growth hack. I know everyone kind of has an aversion to going and talking to salespeople, but talking to a salesperson that does nothing but talk to other real estate agents all day might be a great way to get some really good intel. So you might want to call one of Chris's guys and ask what other agents out there in you know building your real estate business land are doing, because I know they have a pretty good perspective on that.
100%.
All right, everyone. Quick episode for us. This episode is based off a blog post. There's probably a QR code on your screen right here. So hit that one, or there's links down in the description to go read that post by Chris himself. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section. Talk to you later.